It's Friday the 21st of October and welcome to From the South. We begin in Costa Rica, where 12 people were killed after a bus transporting 31 retired staff members of Costa Rica's National University plunged off a steep road into a mountainous area north of Costa Rica's capital. The passengers, 12 of which were also injured in the accident, were on their way to an indigenous reserve to carry out social work. Helicopters were used to transport the more seriously injured to hospitals in San Jose. 5 were in critical condition, according to Red Cross paramedics. Governors of the states of Apure, Aragua, Bolivar, Carabobo and Monagas announced that local judges had annulled the results of the last petition held in June. This was due to alleged fraud in the counting of signatures. Electoral authorities had warned that if the first round petition was annulled in any state, that key stage in the referendum process would be void. Cuba has signed a bilateral agreement with the United States that deals with cooperation between the nations in the fight against cancer. Cuba has been a world leader in cancer breakthroughs, most recently with lung cancer. The US Secretary of Health and Human Service, Sylvia Burwell, was in Havana for the signing with her Cuban counterpart, Roberto Morales. Islamic State group militants launched a major attack on the city of Kirkuk. Iraqi and Kurdish forces have launched an offense to seize territory around Mosul. At least 18 people have been killed. The militants attacked a power station and other buildings in the oil-rich city. The French government has announced that the peace process of demolishing the Calais migrant camp will begin on Monday. But volunteers say that it could lead to friends being separated and refugees forced to live in the streets. According to an Interior Ministry official, the refugees will be moved to a network of reception centres. A trade deal between Canada and the European Union may not be signed because the region of Wallonia opposes it. The CETA Pact is set to be signed at an EU-Canada summit on Thursday, to be attended by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But he may cancel soon if there is more delay. Hundreds of students took part in the 24-hour general strike against austerity measures in Milan, which disrupted various areas of public sector services, including public transport. Hundreds of thousands of Italians were participating in the strike throughout the country, according to unions. South Africa has formally begun the process of withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. South Africa says that its state laws are incompatible with the obligations stipulated under the Hague-based court. Since its inception, the court has been plagued with the criticism that it holds a neo-colonial bias against African states.
A new ceasefire is underway in the northern Syrian city of Aleppo. But with only hours to go, militant groups have done their best to keep the city on lockdown. According to the Syrian military leadership, the goal of the truce had been to appeal to militants who wanted to leave the eastern neighborhoods of Aleppo. Syrian leadership said it was their last chance. Nevertheless, a large part of the militants' factions within Aleppo refused to leave the city, including the Nusra Front and Ahrar al-Sham.
The terrorists' refusal to leave the eastern neighborhoods of Aleppo is a result of the great support they have received from Western and Arab backers, from the United States, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. However, all of this Western support will not change the equation on the ground. The terrorists will leave the city sooner rather than later.
The Syrian army dropped leaflets over the eastern neighborhoods of Aleppo, explaining the safety crossing points that both civilians and militants could use for leaving the city. Nevertheless, Nusra Front militants heavily attacked these points with snipers and mortars, blocking anyone from leaving the city.
The terrorists refuse to leave under the breakthrough truce, and they are hitting the exit routes. It's nothing new. The terrorists have been doing it every time because they want to push the US agenda of making the situation more complicated.
In spite of the complicities, the Syrian army confirmed its full commitment to the truce and reiterated that police had been deployed to the outskirts of the city, where there were no military forces. There was secure transportation there as well as necessary supplies for anyone who wanted to get out. The truce will be in place until shortly before midnight on Thursday evening. Hazem Abdullah, teleSur's, Syria.
Brazil international forward Neymar has signed a 5-year contract extension with FC Barcelona. The new contract will set his release clause at $224 million for the first year, 222 million for the second, and 250 million for the final 3. More on these and other stories on our website telesurtv.net/English.